and I'm sure my brother, you in the same boat.
I'm older than you probably, but go for it. So welcome to Unleashed Learning TV and Unleashed Learning Radio. So let's face it, we're living in the digital age. It's changed the way we work, connect, and in many ways learn. And if it's used well, it can unleash the ways we make learning stick for everyone. And that's why we've got Brett Salakas on today's show. Now, Brett, he's the HP Education Ambassador. He's an international keynote speaker. He's the best-selling author of A MAMMOTH Lesson and the founder of #AussieEd, which is the largest online network of teachers in Australia. Now, he's going to share with you what it means to teach in the digital age, a way to think about technology for stickiness, and he shares an idea regarding podcasting that is so cool. So let's get this started. So, Brett, welcome to Unleashed Learning TV, Brett. Welcome.
Woo. I'm happy to be here. Let's do it. Let's talk.
As you know, or maybe you don't know, at Unleashed Learning, what we do is it's all about making learning stick for everyone. The schools that work with us put a very specific teaching and learning mission and system in place, and they then harness their energies to make learning stick for everyone. And once that gets in place, often conversations of technology starts to emerge, and they start really thinking about how are they going to use technology to get the outcomes rather than be used by technology. And that's why you're here today, because you are the perfect person to talk to. So what I want to talk about, and I got to read your book, so thank you for that. I want to start by talking about why we need to be examining teaching and learning in the digital age.
Well, I think we need to examine teaching and learning in the digital age, because we don't just exist in teaching and learning outside of the real world. The real world is in the digital age. The everyday life that we have is immersed in digital. The work that our students will do when they go into the workforce will be digital. In fact, we do them a disservice if we don't prepare them for the world that they're going to work in. So we do the teaching and learning because that's where the need is. We are meant to, as teachers, meet students at their place of need. And my brother, I tell you now, if we want children to have fulfilling lives, we want children to have employment, we want children to go to higher education and continue their learning, they're going to have to embrace digital learning and as part of that process.
It's the ocean we're all swimming in right now. So to pretend that ocean's not there is a disservice to everybody. So
you cannot deny that technology isn't in our life. You cannot deny that we rely on the internet. We saw just recently Optus went down. And 1/3 of Australia couldn't function. There was that big incident where the CEO of Optus was humbled and embarrassed because of the arrogance of saying on an interview, I thought being a barber would be one of the few jobs that you don't need.
Wow.
The internet, just the complete lack of understanding of something as, I guess, analog as getting your hair cut, still relies on digital transactions, still relies on the internet to be able to work and function. So if we expect our children to function in society, we need to be able to prepare them digitally to do that.
One of the things we talk a lot about Unleashed Learning is this idea of just delivering information as opposed to the kind of teaching and learning that actually makes learning stick to get those outcomes.
Yep.
And in the book, I love that you talk about the Google effect, because it made me think about that kind of delivery part that we talk a lot about. So can you just briefly talk about the Google effect in the digital age, what that means for us or for you?
Yeah, no, for sure. And the Google effect is a phrase that's been around for a little while. There's been a number of different sort of research papers on it, but really it comes down to memory and how well we remember. I know as a boy, I'm old enough, and I'm sure my brother, you in the same boat.
I'm older than you probably, but go for
it. I knew my friends' phone numbers off by heart. I knew mum and dad's phone number. You know, you had such recall of people's phone numbers. I can barely know my own number, let alone everybody else's. We don't need to hold on to the basic recall of facts, so the knowledge that we used to have to memorize. We can use that brain power. We can redirect that functioning into other types of thinking. So we can do more, but we have to memorize less. And I guess the Google effect is this, reliance that we've all come to be able to search for something on the internet. Therefore, we don't need to hold that memorization of that basic fact. And we can ask our students to do much broader topics and study much broader areas of research than ever before, because we have the internet to go broad. And they don't need to hold that little bit of memorization. The argument here is how comfortable are we with that trade-off? How comfortable are we as educators, as society, to trade off how much we remember and rote recall to be able to then expand and Google and search for a broad topic? What's the right balance of that? And that's where the real, I guess, arguments or philosophical differences can come into play about what's best for our students. And that Google effect, we know it's real, but where is our comfort level in what we're willing to trade off? It comes down to what we value in the assessment piece, what we value as what learning is.
Yes.
If what we value is how well can a child do in a formalized, standardized test, how well can they spell a word, how well can they recall facts, how well can they do those sorts of things, then suddenly the Google effect is a huge issue, because we need to be able to have that ability to recall that knowledge and recite that knowledge. If you're in the camp where you see learning as how can I apply my knowledge, how can I go deeper, how can I link different concepts, different issues, different understandings, how can I be more multidisciplinary, then you're probably not worried about that depth of recall of facts because you trade that out for other things. I guess the reality is we need to find somewhere appropriate in the middle of those two camps.
It made me think I was in a meeting in San Diego with all these leaders. And now this might be problematic, but what they were saying was the US military is starting to hire people with art backgrounds because they need people who see the world from multiple perspectives, who are creative, who are many of those things you're talking about, not a Google effect, but going higher. And actually the creativity is what they're looking for right now. So
I saw a podcast recently, like a video podcast. I watched a podcast. I don't know if that's the right phrasing, but in that they said, have a look at the children of billionaires. What was it that the children of billionaires do? And they go and they do like arts degrees. They do broad liberal thinking. They do things that actually broaden your awareness and that applied view of the world to see how the world interconnects, that understanding of different systems, that understanding of that broader that broad approach. And then they specialize later in different businesses, different structures and all that sort of stuff. They don't begin with a highly skilled job in something. They do a very broad liberal arts type of degree. And I think from the most part, and I'm certainly on that camp that we do want those multidisciplinary type of things. We want children that can think and connect and see solutions and all that sort of stuff. However, in our lives, we have times where we don't just want specialists, we do want generalists. So we don't want to, it can't be a one-size-fits-all solution.
That's
education.
right.
Touch wood, heaven forbid. If I get sick, I don't want to go to a surgeon that's a generalist. I want to go to a surgeon that's a bloody specialist and damn good at their job.
That's right.
and knows the work inside out and has honed their craft and knows this like nobody else knows this. That's the person I want to have faith in who's doing their job. So there are niches and opportunities. We shouldn't ever, I think, close doors to specialization. And because there are people in the world who we do want to be specialists. And we've all taught those sorts of students who just wicked awesome at mathematics. And why should we force them to do other stuff? Because this is their niche, this is their thing, this is their passion, this is their world. But broadly speaking, I think that more that diverse, multidisciplinary type of approach will benefit a greater percentage of people.
So let me go through. There's a few more I really want to make sure I ask you. And we talk a lot about the difference between short-term learning and long-term learning. And in your book, you talk about deep learning. So for me, that's deep learning. Can you tell me a little bit where deep learning fits in the digital age? What does that mean to you in a digital age?
This is connected to your very first question, where we talk about that Google effect. Is the goal of education, is what we want to have children have a very, surface level knowledge of information that they can recite, or do we want them to be able to push through that surface level and then go really deeply? If I'm studying Japan, do I want my students to be able to have some basic functionality of language, to know key dates of Japanese history, or do I want them to be able to understand and talk to what was the effect of Japanese culture on American occupation in post-World War II Japan? Can they speak to that? And then more importantly, can they relate that incident in Japanese history to other incidents that perhaps are occurring around the world? To be able to pose questions like that and have students actually go on to more nuanced discussions about the world and the interconnectedness of the world, and identify, I'm learning about this, but this can also link and teach me about this other thing over there, and making connections to other texts that they have read, other events in real life, or other things that are happening from around, takes the students in a far deeper sense of learning.
That multifacetedness of what the sticking actually is, rather than getting ready for a Jeopardy match. That the inner complexity of what you're talking about, the technology, if used well, can help it become sticky in really deep kind of ways. So you talk in the book about these core capabilities. It's almost like saying the Google effect is raising kind of the core capabilities of what we need from people, but also maybe what we need to be teaching. So could you briefly talk about those some of the core capabilities you're talking about in the book?
These were research capabilities that, and if anyone who's familiar with Alan Carrington and his pedagogy wheel, that now at the core of that wheel, the graduate capabilities, the research was done. What do employers want from graduates? Now, he was thinking very, very specifically about graduates from university, but it applies obviously to a high school, sort of K-12. And I believe this: the purpose of education is twofold. One, we are either preparing our students for higher learning, or two, we are preparing our students for the workforce. That's what we do as educators. And it's as simple as that. And we're carers, we're nurturers, we're first aiders, we're all sorts of things. But really, what society needs from us, when you boil it down and you take away all the fluff and the love and all the things that I'm very proud of that we do as teachers, when you put that aside, if that is our business and we're preparing students for the workforce, what does the workforce actually want? And it's these time management, it's these problem solving, it's these core capabilities that allow students to be successful in a workplace environment. And it actually connects with all the things that we were just talking about multidisciplinary and the skill set to see things, see connections, all that sort of stuff. This is what a society needs us as educators to be able to do, because these are what the skills now are for children to execute in the workforce. So meeting that need is vitally important.
Could you give us like one or two real briefly what they are?
I mentioned a couple there. So your time management is definitely one. Being able to set aside a task and have students deliver within a task, to be able to collaborate with other people, that collaboration skill, to be able to work in groups, to be able to problem solve, to see different issues and work out solutions for these sorts of these aren't new things. There's nothing like rocket science or see. These are attributes that we are all very, very well aware of. Yet, do we front end those into our units of planning? Am I doing a unit of work with the goal to boost collaboration, boost project management, deliver on dates, and then also have my students be able to problem solve. Am I doing that, or am I so driven by the constraints of system that I am delivering content so that they are ready to take a test at a certain time?
What typically happens is once the Unleashed Learning System gets into school, people start using things in the service of getting learning to stick. So what I want to end this part of the question with is, could you give us an example, which you have over time here, is how do we use technology to get learning to stick rather than be used by it, rather than always a shiny thing we should be using? Is there an example of something we could?
I tell you what,
talk about podcasting was a great one in the book.
I'm going to use a podcasting example, actually. Like, I saw this crazy awesome assessment task. The teacher actually front-ended the unit of work with a podcast at the beginning, and actually broke up the work into 28 sort of core lessons that she wanted to cover over the period of the term. She did differentiate the simpler sort of concepts to the students who were, I guess, operating at that sort of level. The more complex, the more nuanced, challenged some of her other students there. The assessment task was for these students to research that area and produce a podcast episode about that specific topic. Great. Like that's doing that's our research, that's our project management, that's our delivery of a product, that's refining our product, that's all those sorts of things. However, what she's then done is she has basically created a 28 episode podcast series created by the students. So you've got all your mates in the classroom doing it. And it is in effect, a 28 episode study guide on what to listen to, so you know everything for when you do the summative test at the ending of the term. You talk about deep learning, you talk about sticky learning. The individual task has challenged the child, but the completed, I guess, bulk of work that the class has created is then an artifact that assists all students in their deeper understanding of the content and the topic. And I think that's probably one of the best examples of purposeful assessment that I've ever seen.
And let me just say from the science, so the science piece of it from our standpoint is when they speak it, they learn it. So by speaking those podcasts, that's the neuroscience. And then when other people are listening to them, they're creating a link between the topic and the students because it's almost peer-to-peer. So we know the neuroscience, so it connects the neuroscience. So she's using technology to make it very sticky rather than just getting through an assignment. Okay, so we're just about time, but here, three quick rapid fire questions, okay?
Dude, I don't do quick very well,
okay, but this is quick. You got to do quick
anyway.
Just like boom. Favorite teacher?
Favorite teacher? Dr. Huxley.
Dr. Huxley.
What was my chemistry teacher? She was fantastic. My chemistry teacher in year 11 and year 12.
And fantastic. How about who has impacted or influenced your learning journey the most?
Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu and the Art of War. Changed. I base a lot of my teaching on the principles of Sun Tzu.
Fantastic. And of all the things you do, what do you really want to get to stick for everyone?
Do you know what? I'll try. The humanity. I want the humanity to stick. And I'm going to leave you with a very quick statement. And maybe one day we'll have to unpack this. But I truly believe that the wave of AI that is coming into education, there is an opportunity if we do this right. AI will be able to replicate and replace a lot of the tedious parts of teaching. If we try and compete as content delivery, we can't compete with content delivery as AI. If we're content delivery specialists, AI will take our jobs.
Right.
But AI will deliver a lot of that stuff for us. There is an opportunity for us to embrace the humanity of education and build the relationships between teacher and student. And we can do that better than AI ever will be able to.
That is the way to leave it. I mean, that is such a great way to end it. Brett, thank you for the work you do, my friend.
No worries, my brother. No worries. And to everyone listening, I hope that was somewhat interesting.
It was beyond interesting. I could go on and unpack, but I think we'll leave it there. Brett, thank you so much.
No worries. Have a good day.
So now we've got a question for you, and we want to know what's a way that you use technology to make learning stick for everyone. So jump over to the comments section, join the conversation. If you don't have your free ebook, grab that bad boy, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode.